Black Lives Matter, and trans people, I see and love you, and I'm sorry that we live in a world where this needs to be clarified. Hey everyone, it's Jenny and welcome back to my channel. The story ain't over. So today I wanted to kind of update you guys on what I'm reading, what I've read recently, and things I'm kind of planning to read since I didn't do a June TBR. Today's video is being sponsored by Skillshare, but I'll talk a little bit more about them at the end of this video. So I do want to start off by saying that I'm leaving a bunch of resources in the description and also a playlist of Black booktubers and other people on the internet who have kind of talked about what's been going on, and I, as a non-Black person, feel like I should be amplifying their voices before kind of giving my part. But all I want to say is just do better, please do better. Alright, so I feel like I've been in a weird kind of slump this whole year and I haven't read that much, but recently I picked up a few really great books and I'm in the middle of a few really great books and I'm hoping to pick up more really great books. So I'm going to talk about them today. So since the last time I talked to you guys, I think I have finished about 3 different books. So the first one is I'll Be the One by Lila Lee. The other one is Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi. And the third one is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. And that one I actually read via the audiobook that I got through Scribd, so I don't have a physical copy with me. But all 3 of these were amazing, so I'll talk about I'll Be the One first. This is a lovely, sweet, and so very fun book. It follows a Korean American main character. She is plus size, she is fat. This was just so heartwarming because the main character is just so unapologetic, and I loved that. She is unapologetically herself. And she's also bi, which I loved, and she kind of talks about her experience. Basically, she is trying to become a K-pop star. She enters this competition where these K-pop celebrities are basically, you know, discovering artists in America and trying to bring them into K-pop. And so she enters this competition as both a dancer and a singer, and her mother has always kind of told her that she should not pursue the dancing part because she is fat. And our main character, Sky, really wants to prove her mother wrong, so she is trying to win this competition, and it is honestly the sweetest, most wholesome book I have read in a very long time, and I loved it. It was so great. I highly recommend that you all go pick it up. The next book that I read is Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi. I actually picked this up because Victoria Schwab recommended this on her Twitter, and I've seen this author's name on a bunch of YA books, but I never knew that he wrote adult fiction. This is a like sci-fi fantasy-ish real life story. It's very much based in real life, very true events and things that are happening to Black people in current day. But it follows these 2 siblings, one of whom has this thing, and it's literally called a thing, where she has the ability to kind of make worlds and, you know, create earthquakes and create storms and create little suns in her hand. But she has all this power, but she's still kind of powerless to stop a lot of the injustices that are happening to people like her. And there's also her brother, who goes through a lot in this book, and this is a very short book as well. I will say it is like less than 300 pages and it covers a lot, jumping through time, but it was honestly so very powerful, and I highly recommend. And one of the things that I loved about this was the author kind of wrote in his acknowledgements that he felt that this book was angry, but the kind of angry that leaves room for hope. And I thought that was really true. I loved this. It's a really short read, and I really recommend. Definitely a great one to pick up. All right, the next book is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I absolutely love this, guys. It was so freaking cute. It follows a Black main character living in this small town that is kind of homophobic, and her main character's name is Liz Lighty, and she lost her mother a few years ago, I think. She has a younger brother. She's very family oriented, but when she loses out on a scholarship that she was really hoping for her dream school, the school that her mother wanted her to go to for college, she needs to find a way to kind of raise funds to go to that college. And so her small town is really obsessed with prom, apparently, and so whoever wins prom king and prom queen wins a like giant prize of money. And so she decides to join this race to become prom queen in order to get this prize money. But becoming prom queen is like this huge campaign, and honestly I live in Canada, and so like prom isn't that big of a thing. Promposals are kind of a thing, but not really like the king and queen thing from what I understand or where I live. So this is kind of like interesting and funny to me. But yeah, it's like a huge campaign, and so she's kind of campaigning to do this. But the thing about her kind of small town school is that they refuse to let there be like 2 queens or like 2 kings, and non-hetero couples are not allowed to go together. And then when this new girl comes to the school and Liz kind of starts to have a thing for her, things kind of get complicated. But honestly, this is such a cute, like unapologetic and wonderful story. It was so wholesome, and the sapphic romance was just so sweet. I love the two characters together, and they were just so supportive, and there's just a lot of layers to this book. It was just definitely the kind of pick-me-up that I wanted, so I absolutely loved it. Highly recommend, and I urge you all to kind of pick this up as a book to not only show black pain in this moment, but also black joy. All right, next I want to talk about a few books that I'm in the middle of, which is basically all of the books, but I'm gonna focus on a few. So one of the books that I'm in the middle of right now, I'm listening to the audiobook. I'm waiting for my physical copy to come in, so hopefully it comes soon. But that is A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. So this is a YA fantasy. It follows two main characters, which I did not know based on the cover, but it is set in a fantasy world inspired by West African folklore, and it is so rich with just like the fantasy elements and the magic, but also just really well written, and the two characters really come alive to me. I personally love the main male character, Malik. He is so darn sweet and soft and just a precious little muffin, and I love him. But it's also got a badass main girl character who is Karina. But I honestly don't want to give away too much of this book because I feel like it's better if you kind of go into it without knowing much. I feel like the synopsis kind of gave away a bit too much and stuff that kind of happens a few chapters in, so I'm not going to say much, but all you should know is that it's great. I love the two main characters. They are both really layered and interesting, and the whole premise of the book is quite interesting too because it involves one of them trying to kill the other, but also a kind of competition, and it's real darn interesting. All right, the next book that I'm currently in the middle of is Historically Inaccurate by Shea Bravo. So this is an arc that I got a while ago, and I am in love with this book right now. It is taking over my life. I started it last night and I have binged through 2/3 of it. I am almost done and I love it. It follows our main character, Soledad, whose mother was deported to Mexico the year before the book starts. And so Sol is kind of reeling from the impact of what that means for her family and trying to find a semblance of normalcy again. And so she's currently in college. She's at this community college in California, I believe. And a lot of her hopes and aspirations pre her mother getting deported have kind of been dashed away because of, you know, financial limits, because of the fact that a lot of times she wants to save up so she can go visit her mother. And she's kind of dealing with a lot of pressures. But the book kind of opens up with her doing something really crazy, which is breaking into this old house to steal a fork. And the reason is because it's an initiation kind of task that she's given to enter the history club at her community college. And so she breaks into this house, she tries to steal this fork, but she gets caught by the grandson of the people who own the house. And his name is Ethan, and he catches her in the act. And things kind of just spiral from there. This is a really hard to explain book, but basically Ethan and Sol kind of get more tangled up with this club and are trying to figure out what's going on there. But there's also a really sweet element of a bit of a romance and also just some really deep character stuff with the main character, and I am in love with it. It is so sweet, and I also just love the main character's voice. She's super sarcastic and has this really self-deprecating humor, which is really fun. So I'm having a lot of fun with it, so I definitely recommend this one. All right, and then the other two books that I'm currently in the middle of are A Tiger at Midnight by Swati Tirudala and Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I've been in the middle of these for a little bit now just because I haven't had the time to pick these up or other books kind of piqued my interest, but I'm planning to kind of dig down with the audiobook of this one because it's now been released. I started reading this before the book came out, so I was kind of waiting for the audiobook to come out so I could like finish it because I love Elizabeth Acevedo's narrating for her novels in verse. I loved the audiobook for The Poet-X, so I kind of wanted to just listen to the audiobook for this, so that's my plan for this one. And then The Archer at Dawn is the sequel to A Tiger at Midnight, which I read earlier this year and absolutely loved. It's an Indian-inspired fantasy, and it's just so great. It has like two main characters that have this really interesting dynamic, and I'm in love with it. So yeah, the second book is starting off really great, so I'm just excited to see where it goes. All right, and then I want to talk a little bit about some of the books that I'm planning to read, hopefully this month, in the next little while. So I have 3 of them. One is Slay by Brittany Morris. I've had this on my shelf for a really long time, and actually a lot of you have told me this is great, and it's kind of like Warcross, I believe, because it deals with kind of a online game. Basically it follows her main character Kiera, who is a black gamer on this game called Slay, and she's been facing a lot of trolls on the game, and so she's had to deal with that. But things kind of escalate when, and I'm reading from the description right here, when a teen in Kansas City is murdered over a dispute in the Slay world. News of the game reaches mainstream media, and Slay is labeled a racist, exclusionist, violent hub of thugs and criminals. Even worse, Kiera faces potentially being sued for anti-white discrimination, and an anonymous troll infiltrates the game, threatening to harass all the players and take over. So our main character Kiera is dealing with all this crap. So I'm really interested to see this kind of represented in like the game space, and all of you have said this is great, so I'm very excited to pick it up. The next book that I'm hoping to pick up is one that comes out in the fall by an author that I love, and that is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. She is the author of Monday Is Not Coming, Let Me Hear a Rhyme, which I read earlier this year or last year and absolutely loved. So I was so excited when I found out she had another book coming out, and this one is kind of a thriller. It deals with a murder mystery, but it also has a bit of a Me Too element to it as well. So I'm very, very interested in this book and how it's gonna go. The ARC copy also has like a letter from the author at the beginning, which I thought was super interesting. So I'm super excited to dive into this. Also, this cover is just gorgeous and I am in love with it. So yeah, I cannot wait for this book because Tiffany D. Jackson always delivers on amazing books. So very excited. All right, and the last book that I'm hoping to pick up is Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. And this is kind of a sci-fi fantasy memoir contemporary story from what I understand. So the main character's name is also Echo Brown, and she lives in Eastside Cleveland, and she is a wizard. There is magic in her world, and this is kind of her life story, I guess, or her experience living as a young Black teen, and there's magic, and that's honestly all I needed. And this cover is gorgeous. I remember seeing the cover in, I think, one of Lala's videos, Books and Lala's videos, and thought it was gorgeous. And it's also kind of a short book, so I think it's gonna be a quick, wonderful read. But those are all the books that I'm hoping to pick up very, very soon, and all the ones that I'm currently reading and that I've read recently. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of wrap-up TBR thing, and I hope you will all go check out the links I put in the description, please. So now, before we end this video, I'd like to say a little bit about Skillshare, the sponsor of this video today. So Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more. So for today's video, I really wanted to highlight a Black creator on Skillshare, and that is Vashti Harrison. She is an illustrator. You can see her Instagram. I'll link it down below. But she has wonderful illustrations, and she's also the author of multiple picture books for little kids that feature Black people from history and our current day, and I highly recommend you pick them up for any little people in your life. But I am really into illustration. For those of you who do not know, if you've watched some of my other videos, you might have noticed. Skillshare is really great. It's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, but if you are one of the first 1,000 people who click the link in my description, you can get 2 months of free premium membership. So go check that out, and I'll head back to Jenny from the past. So that's what all I have for today, guys. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video, and please remember that this story ain't over. Bye.